Hello everyone, back to today's third video. We're looking at the ENSO region for today's first video. We're doing our first ENSO update of the year. So we're going to have a look at things like La Nina, El Nino, see what is going on in the Equatorial Pacific Ocean. For the first time this year, we included this, of course, in the winter updates, and we finished those at the end of November when we released the GazObvious.com Winter 2017-18 forecast. So since then, haven't really discussed the ENSO region all that much. So we have been covering it a little bit in the Sunday roundups. But this is the first in-depth sort of look at ENSO of 2018. You should have been watching this on Saturday evening, but I had all sorts of problems with my computer thanks to Malwarebytes software going a bit haywire on Saturday evening, so I couldn't bring you that video. And I've had to redo it, and this is it, you're watching the sort of Redux version. So we'll see how we get on with this second update. Just say that the 5-day forecast was released earlier on today, and also we extend out beyond the 5-day forecast period to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. You find both of those videos on the homepage. There's also a written version of the 5-day forecast. You can get to that from the buttons at the top of the page. And with that said, I think we better get on. So we're going to begin by starting off by having a look at the cold and warm episodes by season chart from NCB and NOAA. So we're going to scroll down, and what you'll see here is that we've got these years on the side of the chart, and then we've got these tri-monthly periods. So, for example, this is the year of 1950, and that's the tri-monthly period of December, January, February of 1950, and so we go on through the year: May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, for example. Now, these blue coloured numbers in the boxes are indicating ENSO events. So for this year, 1950, we can see that the December, January, February tri-monthly period was actually having a cold event. It was having a La Nina, and that's depicted by that number there, minus 1.5. And you see that those blue negative numbers continue through much of the tri-monthly periods with the first half of 1950 before it then went back into ENSO neutral condition. I mean, it's the same idea for El Nino. So if we come down to this year, 1958, we can see that red number plus 1.8. That was an El Nino event, a warm event that was taking place there. Started with these red numbers in 1957. And continue with these red numbers through 1958. And so we can see that over the years and the decades, we've been waxing and waning, as you expect to do with the warm events and the cold events. So we go down to our latest year that we're interested in, which is 2017. It's this number just here. That's the year of 2017, and you can see that what's been happening through this year is that through the early part of the year, we was around ENSO neutral. Actually, for much of the year, it was around ENSO neutral, but then towards the end of the year, starting with the July, August, September tri-monthly period, we started to shift more towards a cold event, more towards La Nina. Now, we did have a cold event last year, 2016 to 2017, had a La Nina event then, albeit a very, very weak one. And you can see that through the second half of 2017 have been moving towards La Nina. So this is the latest number in the box. This will be updated very soon now, but the last number in box that we have is for the tri-month period of October, November, December, which came out at minus 0.9, and that is into cold event, into La Nina type territory. Now, to get these events designated, you do have to meet very strict criteria. So the first criteria you have to meet is that you have to go, it's the same is true for La Nina and El Nino, you have to go either 2 or below minus 0.5 degrees, so half a degree below average to get to La Nina threshold. It's the same true for El Nino. You have to go to plus half a degree above average. So that's the first criteria. But the second criteria is that you have to do that over 5 tri-monthly periods. So you see we've got 4 negatives or minors numbers here. We've got this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now, to get La Nina designated, these two don't count because they are underneath that minimum threshold of minus 0.5 of half a degree below average. So we discount those two. They will never go blue with these coloured boxes. But these two, they do count. We've got minus 0.7 for the September, October, November tri-monthly period, and then minus 0.9 for the October, November, December tri-monthly period. So far we've had 2 tri-monthly periods that have reached the required sort of temperature threshold to get this La Nina designated. But we've got to get another 3. Now, I don't think that's going to be a problem for this tri-monthly period, November, December, January. That's fine. That's going to be underneath minus 0.5 as well. I suspect this one probably will be also December, January, February. But by the time we get through to February, March, April, which we'll see down here, of course, it'll be in a box just here. By the time we get to that, we may be struggling a little bit to get the 5th number in the box. If we do get all 5 numbers in the box at or below minus 0.5, then we will get the La Nina officially sort of designated on these charts. It's just whether we can stretch this out over the required tri-monthly period. And the doubt is because it started so late. If it had started around here, as most ENSO events normally would do through the summer months, then it wouldn't be a problem at all. But because we didn't really start this La Nina until very, very late in the year, really unusual developments which we covered in the winter updates, because we started this La Nina so late, it means that we've got to stretch these negative numbers into the January, February, March tri-monthly period. I think we probably will do it, but it may be a little bit touch and go. So obviously we'll be keeping you updated on that over the next couple of months. Now, whether the La Nina is officially designated or not, there's no doubt that we have had, and we are having, a La Nina event. So this is how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking when we signed off on the winter updates at the end of November and the start of December. So the region we're interested in, the area we're interested in, is the ENSO region, which is the equatorial Pacific Ocean from Peru over here in South America to Indonesia over here. And this blue sort of mass that you see here through the equatorial Pacific Ocean, that is the signature of La Nina. That's the cold event that we had in place towards the back end of 2017. I'm going to show you the very latest chart from NOAA now in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies. This was generated on the 29th of January, so you can see how things have changed over the past couple of months. Clearly, there has been a weakening of the blue colour. So clearly, La Nina has peaked and is now beginning to weaken, as you would normally expect to happen, because these events, be they La Nina or El Nino, they tend to reach their peak around Christmas, and then they'll subside through the early part of the following year. So quite obviously, we have reached our lowest point of the year in terms of the temperature anomaly there, and now we're beginning to just start to see the La Nina signature starting to ease off a little bit, but it's still quite a strong signal for La Nina. It's a weak event, but it's quite a strong signal there. I mean, you can't miss it by looking at the chart. The blue colours are very striking, indicating those sea surface temperature anomalies still across all ENSO regions really below average, and still quite substantially below average actually in the eastern portion of the equatorial Pacific. So we are still in La Nina condition, albeit not quite as strong as it was at the end of 2017. But I think that will be enough to carry us through to get this La Nina event designated when we finally look for that 5th tri-monthly box to go blue. So that's how things are currently looking across the equatorial Pacific in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies. this is how things are looking in terms of the subsurface temperature anomalies. This is from the PDF that is produced on a weekly basis from CPC, NCEP, and NOAA. So what we're looking at here is the temperature anomaly at depth. So same idea. We've got the Equatorial Pacific, which is along here, of course. So if you think that Peru would be kind of like there, and Indonesia would be kind of like there. And this would be the surface of the Equatorial Pacific just here. And then these numbers on the side are the lower depths that we're going down to. So I think we're going down to around 300 meters, which of course is a very long way down indeed. So you can see the signature for La Nina is still there. With those blue colours towards the sea surface of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean. So that's where the La Nina signature is still there. And it's still a little bit at depth as well in this eastern portion of the Equatorial Pacific. You see now it is beginning to fade underneath the surface through the central portion of the Equatorial Pacific. And then we've got these orange colours beginning to appear around here and also a little bit over there. So that's warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies starting to develop at depth. You see they're starting to develop a very long way down, actually, right down to that sort of depth. Now, could that be the beginnings of an El Nino signature? I think it's far too early to say that, but certainly in the western portion of the Equatorial Pacific, at depth, we are beginning to see warm waters beginning to gather. So it is possible that this might take us into an El Nino event for the second half of 2018, but I think it's far, far too early to say that at all, to be honest. And at the moment, we're just looking to go back to ENSO neutral through the spring, and then we'll have to see where things go after that. This is the SOI, the Southern Oscillation Index. This is from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. Now, what you need to know about the SOI is that it's just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean. So this is sort of reading the pressure readings between Darwin in northern Australia and Tahiti in the southern Pacific Ocean. If I get a little bit confused with this, I had a very, very long day today. I've been working non-stop on gas weather, so I'm really tired when I'm doing this update. If it hadn't been for malware bites, I would have been able to bring the first ENSO update to you on Saturday, so I'm really annoyed about that as well. But just bear with me. I get a little bit tongue-tied, a little bit confused about what I'm talking about because I had a very long day. So the SOI is an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean, between measuring the pressures between Darwin and Tahiti. When the SOI is positive, it tells you that the atmosphere is in a La Nina, in a cold event stage. When the SOI is negative, the atmosphere will be in an El Nino stage. So given we've got a La Nina signature in the Pacific Ocean, you would expect quite a lot of positivity of the SOI. You would expect the atmosphere to be reflecting that cold event type setup. We begin with the SOI index on the 1st of January, where we did indeed have a positive number, plus 6.79. So that's reflecting an atmospheric state that's reflecting La Nina. We did get some negativity just there through the early part of January, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th. We go down to -6, -16, -14, -10. So that's the atmosphere sort of swinging to more of an El Nino type state in the Southern Ocean. But that didn't last very long. And in the second half of January, we've actually been seeing some very strong positivity of the SOI. So, for example, on the 17th of January, we're at plus 22.85. 22nd of January at plus 20.83. And the 23rd is at plus 25.68. That's strong positivity of the SOI. And that's going to help to maintain this La Nina a little bit longer. So as we come down to the latest, we got the 25th of January at plus 22, the 26th at plus 18, 27th at plus 16, and the very latest, the 30th, at plus 9.62. So the SOI is still in a positive state, and it's telling us that the atmosphere in the Southern Ocean is still reflective of a La Nina type setup. And so we've got the atmosphere and the oceans coupled at the moment, and that's going to continue this La Nina further. So I don't see a dramatic sort of collapse of the La Nina. Sometimes with these ENSO events, be they La Nina or El Nino, you can get kind of like a collapse. It happens very quickly. I don't think we're going to have that this year. I think we're going to really struggle to bring those temperature anomalies up on the surface of the equatorial Pacific. So we may still be in La Nina condition even some way into the spring this year, as long as we keep getting this very strong positivity of the SOI, the Southern Oscillation Index. We will struggle to leave the La Nina event behind. I think when we get properly into spring, April, May, we will then almost certainly be back to ENSO neutral, but it may take a little time to do it. Right, before we go, let's just have a look at some forecasts for the rest of the year. So we'll start with CFS V2. This is the region 3.4, which is kind of like Central Equatorial Pacific. Forecast from CFS V2. Again, same idea as before. We've got the temperature anomalies on the side, and the dates this time are along the bottom. This is where we're starting off at just here in January, going through to February. So you'll see that we have been at La Nina threshold since the autumn, minus 0.5 just there. That's a minimum requirement to get La Nina designated. It's around where we are right now. And you'll notice from the black dash line here, actually the CFS V2 just wants to keep this weak La Nina signal going, interestingly, through the rest of the, well, certainly through the first half of the year. We can actually go to July just there and October. Just there, a lot of uncertainty by then, of course. But certainly up to the summer, anyway, the CFS V2 wants to keep this weak La Nina going. So it's kind of like a borderline between ENSO neutral, which is there on the cold side, and weak La Nina, which is kind of like just here. And it's on that border you'll see this black dash line, which is the ensemble mean, pretty much throughout, actually, throughout the forecast, right up to October. I suspect what's going on there is that the model still doesn't yet have a signal. We're going to come up to the spring predictability barrier, which is the time of year when we always get a struggle to see where these ENSO events are going to go through the summer and then the second half of the year. And so the CFS V2 is just trying to keep the equilibrium, if you like, just trying to keep things where they are right now and extend them out. It is possible that that could happen. Sometimes that does happen, but I think it's quite unlikely that that is going to be the case, and I suspect we will see something emerging by the time we get through to the end of the spring and the start of summer. But for the time being, CFS V2 is forecasting just a continuation of a weak La Nina right way through to the summer. ECMWF, though, is looking a little bit different. So, again, this is the region 3.4 sea surface temperature anomaly forecast from the ECMWF. Again, same idea. We've got the temperature anomalies on the side, dates are on the bottom. This is where we're starting off at, just around or a little bit above -1 as our temperature anomaly. So again, weak La Nina threshold. You'll notice though that the red lines here, which is the ensemble plume, lifting up. So by the spring, and this is what you tend to expect, by the spring we're back to ENSO neutral. Interestingly, after that, though, through to the summer months, we can go to June and July just here. We are seeing the broad thrust of the ECMWF ensemble plume. Ignore that one. But we are seeing the broad thrust of the ECMWF ensemble plume actually going maybe towards a weak El Nino event. I think we have to be as cautious with that as we do with the CFS V2 forecast, because the ECMWF is probably too progressive in trying to swing us out of La Nina and into El Nino. You always have to have a lot of caution with these models at this time of the year. But we have got a contrast there. CFS wants to continue the weak La Nina through to the summer. The ECMWF hints that we may certainly go back to ENSO neutral, and we may start to edge a little bit towards a really weak El Nino by the summer, perhaps. And then finally, Jamstech IOD. And this one, this is where we're starting off at right now. So again, we've got temperature on the side, dates on the bottom. This one, we're starting off again with weak La Nina condition. You'll notice the red line, which is the ensemble being gradually lifting up. So by the time we get through to April and May, just here, we're back to kind of like ENSO neutral. And then into the summer months and even into the autumn, we just stay at ENSO neutral with that red line through to there. And I suspect that's most likely to be what happens up to summer anyway, with a gradual return back to ENSO neutral. And then by the summer, we'll have to look and see where things are going to go next. So the spring analogues, I think we've got to focus primarily on ENSO neutral springs that are coming out of La Nina, with the caveat that we may see something a little bit surprising happening as well. You never totally discount that possibility, but I think generally the idea is that we gradually go back to ENSO neutral through the spring, so that will be our focus for the next batch of analogues that we're going to do for the spring on Sunday. Right, and so that's brought you up to date with January's very delayed ENSO update. So sorry it's taken such a long time to bring this to you, but before the end of the month, I have managed to get this out to you. So sorry about the delay, but there we go, these things happen. And we will continue to monitor the ENSO region, both briefly in the Sunday roundups that we do every Sunday, but also once a month we will have this in-depth look at what's happening in the ENSO region right way through to the summer. We stopped doing them in August because we go into winter updates in September, so they don't go through the year, but certainly up to August anyway, we will do an ENSO update every month where we'll go in depth, just as we have done for this video, in depth into what's happening. Right, that's it for now. Don't forget to check out 5-day forecast and the video extending out beyond the 5-day forecast that we did earlier on today. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.